If you want to improve your leg strength, balance, and flexibility, but you don't want to spend all day exercising, you can actually do all of those things with just one exercise. And that exercise is the lunge. Now, a lot of middle-aged and older adults avoid doing lunges because 1, they're hard, 2, they're afraid of losing their balance, and 3, they're afraid it'll cause or worsen knee pain. But in this video, I'm going to show you how you can do lunges safely at any age without causing knee pain. In fact, if you do them right, you can actually help improve your knee pain. So let's get started. Now, there are several different variations of a lunge, and in this video, I'll show you 4 of those different variations. I wouldn't recommend that you do them all, but find the 1 or 2 that seem to work best for you and then use those ones. Now we'll start with the most basic one, and this is called the split squat. I'll spend the most time on this one covering the basic principles of the lunge, and then with the rest of the versions, I'll just narrow in on the nuances of those particular versions. So the split squat is an exercise where you're stationary. You're split like this and you're squatting, hence the name. This is the easiest because you have both legs on the ground at all times. You're not having to alternate or pick up one leg or the other. You also really only have to focus on going up and down. There's no forward or backward component to it. Now, the way you do this is you stagger your legs, one leg forward and one leg backwards. You want your feet about shoulders width or slightly wider apart. The wider apart you make your base of support sideways, the more stable you are and the less challenging it is for your balance. Now, if you're just starting out, I would recommend holding on to a chair or even 2 chairs for balance so that you can get used to the motion without having to worry too much from tipping side to side. But if you are concerned a little bit more with your balance, then staggering your feet a little wider side to side may help. Now, next we want to find the side to side component of your knee. Ideally, you want your hip, knee, and ankle all to be in the same alignment. So depending on how widely you place your feet, that may affect how much you have to turn your knee. To find the optimal angle, just stagger your feet and then kind of test with little mini lunges. Move your knee in a little bit and feel how stable you feel. Move it out a little bit, check again. Move out a little bit again, check again, and then kind of narrow in on the place where you feel like you have the most solid pillar of support. Now, to see from a side-to-side angle, you're going to stagger your feet, and the width will again vary. If you're more narrow, that's going to place more stress on your quadriceps, causing more of a knee extension force. If you're wider, that's going to place more stress and emphasis on your glutes. Now, for a split squat, I would recommend starting out with a wider stance front to back as well, because that's going to place more emphasis on your glutes and cause less compression on your knee. Now, depending on where you're starting, you may just go through a little bit of a narrow squat to start out with. And then as you get better balance, better strength, better confidence in the exercise, then you can progress to deeper and deeper. Again, hold on to a chair for balance if you're just first starting out. Now, when you're in a wide stagger like this and you have your knee right above your heel, when you get to the lowest part of the split squat, this is the hardest part because gravity is pressing directly down on your thigh. It's perpendicular to your thigh. So this is the most difficult, challenging part of the exercise, kind of like when you're going to get up from the floor. It's that initial push. And in fact, this exercise will help make you better at getting up on the floor if you happen to intentionally or accidentally find yourself down there. So go down as far as you feel comfortable going and then push through your heel. When you're in this lowest angle, your hip extension force pushing your thigh bone or femur is almost directly into pushing you upwards. The higher up you get, the more knee extension force you need to come back up to a standing position. We're not going to worry about that for the split squat. Just go down, come back up as far as you can without having to go forwards or backwards. And so you're never going to get completely back up over this foot. Now that also means you'll have to do all of the repetitions on one leg first. Again, whether you're just doing little small squats or whether you're going all the way down, you'll have to do one leg first, do all your repetitions, and then switch. Now, if you happen to have one leg that's stronger than the other, I'd recommend starting with the weaker leg first, doing as many repetitions as you can with your weaker side, and then matching that same number with the stronger side afterwards. Now, from a front angle, again, you're going to want to find that optimal alignment with your knee over toes, find that pillar of strength, and then as you're going down, you want to make sure to keep everything in that optimal alignment. There's a tendency, if you watch people do lunges at the gym, you'll see their knee drift in that way, which can create knee pain at worst. At best, it just makes you not as strong and not able to do the exercise as well. So make sure everything stays in that nice pillar of alignment as you're doing your narrow or deep split squats. So that's the first variation of the lunge. Now, the basic components of the lunge aren't going to change with the other variations, but there are some nuances in the technique as well as the emphasis on which muscles they emphasize. And so the next variation we'll go to, I think this is probably the second easiest, is the reverse lunge. So for this one, you're going to start out in a standing position, then you're going to step backwards with one leg. This brings you into that same split squat position. So you're going to do the same thing. You're going to drive your heel down through the floor, using your glutes to power you back up to a standing position. Now, if you go slowly with this, hip extension through your glutes will get you to about here, to about 45 degrees. After you're here, hip extension becomes more of a backward force and not a downward force. So if you go slow with this, you're going to have to use a lot of quad muscle or knee extension to get you from 45 degrees back up to a standing position. So the emphasis with this is on power. You want to drive your heel down through the floor hard, create power or acceleration at that bottom part of the motion, and that helps give you momentum to power you back up from the 45 to 0 degree angle. So again, you go down, push your heel down hard when you're at the bottom part of the squat or bottom part of the lunge, and then come back up to standing. Then on this one, you do alternate legs. So step back with the other one. Again, your weight's through your heel. You want to have your knee directly over top of your heel for the most part. Push your heel down hard through the floor, come back up to a standing position, and then step back with the other one, come back up to a standing position. If you do have some balance issues, again, you can hold on and go like that, and like that, and like that. Same principles apply from the front. When you are stepping backwards, just make sure you keep your knee in an optimal alignment as you're going down and also as you're coming back up. So that's the second variation. The third variation is just the opposite. It's a forwards lunge, where you start out from standing, and instead of stepping backwards, you step forwards. Now, this places a lot more emphasis on your quadricep at the bottom part of the movement, which is, again, the hardest part because gravity has the most perpendicular force on your thigh. When you step forwards, you're bringing your pelvis closer to your heel, so the lever arm of hip extension gets a lot shorter, and the lever arm of knee extension gets a lot higher, which means you're going to have to use a lot more quadriceps or knee extension to get back upwards. Now, that's not necessarily a good or a bad thing. It just is what it is. If your goal is to train your quads and get your quads stronger, then that's a great version of the exercise. But there are a few things that you should be aware of, because the more force you use out of your quadriceps, the more that compresses your kneecap, which actually sits inside your quadricep up against your thigh bone. And so if you have arthritis, particularly kneecap arthritis, that contraction of your quadriceps, particularly when your quadriceps are stretched and then generating force, might be quite painful. So if you do have knee problems, I would probably recommend not choosing the forward lunge and opting more for the split squat or the backwards lunge. The fourth version of the lunge is a walking lunge. This is a little bit more dynamic, and it also challenges your balance more because you're going to have to go from a lunge all the way back up and on to the next step without placing your other foot on the ground. So you have a much longer period of single limb support. Additionally, you're going to do your repetitions moving across the room. So there's really not a way that you can hold on for balance. So you probably do need a little better balance if you're going to do a walking lunge. Now the advantages here are that it is more hip extension when you're in this downward force. So there's not quite so much force on your knee. You do have to create a lot of power at this bottom position to not only get you up, but then help transition you into the next step. So it also requires a lot more power to do a walking lunge than more of a stationary lunge where you're staying more or less in place. Now, if you do get strong enough at doing walking lunges or any of the other variation of lunges, you can add weight to it. I would highly recommend, though, that the only weight that you use is dumbbells or something that you're hanging down by your side. The reason for that being, if you're doing a barbell lunge and you happen to lose your balance, it's going to come down on top of you, versus if you're using dumbbells, you can just easily drop them and let them go, and it doesn't harm anything other than maybe the floor. So those were the four variations of the lunge. And just for a very quick review, you have the split squat, where you're just moving up and down in place. The reverse lunge, where you're stepping backwards, coming back up to standing, and alternating legs. The forward lunge, where you're going forwards, coming back up to standing, going forwards, coming back up to standing, going forwards, coming back up to standing. And then finally, the walking lunge, where you're progressing across the room with your repetitions. So hopefully you did find this video helpful. If you do need more help to improve your leg strength, balance, or flexibility, and you live in the St. Louis area, we'd be happy to help you out here at More for Life. And if you're watching this from somewhere else, we've got lots of other videos on how to improve your mobility, as well as how to relieve knee pain. And you can check them out in these playlists over here. But before you go, if you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to our channel so you can get notified of our future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.